Hello, I'm Dr. Darren Simmons. I'm making this video to illustrate how you guys should lay out your Excel file for the project phase 1, and to show you how you can use the various formulas and functions that are built into Excel to make your life a bit easier when it comes to actually doing this project. So let's go ahead and do that. So if you look at the assignment page, you will see that the first thing you should do is have your raw data in a table in the first tab. As you can see here, I have already put a set of raw data together and made it into a table like so. And if you scroll down, you'll see on the left column is the roles of the die in order, and the right column is the number shown on the die. And if you scroll down, you will see that there are 60 roles and various numbers of each of the possible numbers shown. Obviously, you should not expect that your outcomes will look exactly like this, but one would imagine they will be substantially similar. So we're supposed to use multiple tabs in Excel in order to organize the data better. So to do that, we're going to need to make use of this little bit of information here. And we'll have to start by renaming the first tab here, because if you look in the assignment document, you'll see that it says the first tab should be named raw data. And it is actually important that the tab names are be very specific. So again, in order to actually change this, you just have to put the cursor on it, double click it, and then type in the new tab name that you want. Now, we're going to want there to be multiple tabs, which means we're going to need to create more tabs, which is what this little icon here is for. It's new sheet. If you click on that, it will create a new tab. And I'm going to name this tab frequency distribution, because that's what it's supposed to be called, that or something very much like it. And then I'm going to just do some housekeeping here, changing the formatting or changing the font and where everything is organized in each of the tabs. So what's going to go in excuse me, in this tab is the grouped frequency, or actually the ungrouped frequency distribution, with the classes being the role values, and as well as the mean, sample standard deviation, and 5-number summary of the roles. So I'm going to set myself up some space here by widening the columns so that I can input stuff in them, and then leaving a space of 1 column in between. I'm going to start with the frequency distribution on the left, and then the mean and sample standard deviation, and then the 5-number summary. And I actually don't need to widen that last one there. Let me put it back where it was. Okay. So to get the frequency distribution, I will need to set up my values in 1 column. You could also do this in rows if you are so inclined. I'm just going to use columns. Number shown, which means I'm going to have to tweak this and make it a little bit wider than that because that didn't quite fit. So I'll make it 130. And to pair this up, I'll make that 130 as well. So the number shown is the number shown on the die. So that will be the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And what goes next is the frequency. How many times these numbers are shown on the dice. Now, in order to do this, I'm not going to go back through and count every single one of the the roles that were ones or twos or threes or fours or fives or sixes by hand. Instead, I'm going to use a function in Excel to do that for me. To do that, that function, by the way, is called COUNTIF. So whenever you want to use a function in Excel, you highlight the cell you want to put the function in, and then you type equals, and then you're going to need to use the name of the function. So the name of the function is COUNTIF. And you'll see if you put parenthesis there, it says range and it says criteria. Now, I'm going to be referencing the range in the other tab. So the range, to get that, I'm going to click on the tab that I'm interested in, which is the raw data tab. And then I'm going to click here on 5 and then click, tab down, page down, page down, page down, all the way to the bottom here. That is the range that I want, the range of my actual data. So if I go here, you can see that what this is now showing me here, that's going to go in that cell in the spreadsheet on the frequency distribution page here is, see, single quote, raw data, close single quote, exclamation mark, and then the range that I want, B2 to B61. So this is how you would actually reference other sheets rather than just the one that you're currently using. Other tabs here. So I'm going to go back here up to the COUNTIF function in the little formula bar here, and I'm going to hit a comma because the next thing I need it to so the range is what cells I want it to count something in, and the criteria is what I want it to count. So this is going to be the number 1 in this case, because I want it to count the number of ones that show up in that column that I just referenced there. So if I hit enter, you'll see it jump me back to the second tab here, and it shows that there are 15 ones that show up in excuse me, in the roles, my list of roles. And again, here you'll see equals COUNTIF raw data B2 to B61 and then 1. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to highlight this and I'm going to copy it so that I don't have to keep typing it out over and over and over again. I'm going to hit escape. So here I'm going to put a control V, so that's paste, but I'm going to change the criteria because now I'm interested in how many 2s there were. And then here I'm going to also do the same thing, but I'm going to change the criteria to 3, and then 4, and then 5, and last but not least 6. And there we go. So I'm going to throw in a bit here at the bottom where it shows totals. And I'm just going to make that bold and make that bold. And this is going to be equal sum. So I'm going to have it add up all of the frequencies that we have so far, just to make sure as a sanity check that I covered all 60 of the die rolls. So this is going to be sum, the number in cell B2, colon, that gets you the range, the number in cell B7. So have it add up all of those things for me. And I do get 60, which is what I should get, fortunately. So that's passes the sanity test. So last thing I'm going to do before I move on to the next bit here is to make this into a kind of a nicer looking table. And to do that, I am going to highlight this whole thing like that. The way I did it, the other way to do it in this case was to hit Control-Shift-Home, which would move everything back up to the upper left. But at any rate, I've got this highlighted. Now, if I put my cursor over this and right-click, you will see that, among other things, in this drop-down menu that shows up is a thing called Format Cells, which is what I want to do here. I'm going to try to make this look a little bit more like a table. And to do that, I'm going to create a border. Now, you don't have to create a border exactly the way that I am doing so here. This is just how I'm choosing to do it. So I'm going to have the outline be a thick black line. And I'm also going to put a thinner black line, but thicker than what you see there, on the inside. Now, if I do this, what I get is something that looks like that. And actually, now that I think about it, I want to throw in one additional bit here and make the bottom of that a little bit thicker, because the totals aren't really part of the frequency distribution. So last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to change the color of the background in this case, just to make it a little bit easier to see. So I'm going to change the background to, how about red? Let's make that red. And it kind of makes the black text, I'm going to widen this just a little bit more to make it a little bit easier to read. And the black text there is a little bit harder to read as well. So I'm going to change the color of the text using this bit here. I'm going to make the text white. And now that's a little bit easier to read. And I'm going to do a similar thing down here, but I'm going to change the fill color to green. And again, I'm going to change the text color to white. So there is our frequency distribution. The next thing we're going to need are the standard deviation, or excuse me, the mean and the sample standard deviations, and then the 5-number summary. So I'm going to put the mean here in this column. I'm going to put the sample standard deviation in this column, and now I'm going to have to make this wider just to fit all this in. So that's 170. Just for uniformity's sake, I'm going to make this one 170 as well. Mean and sample standard deviation, and also population standard deviation, if you're interested in it, are both functions that Excel can do as well. So I'm going to call those functions. For mean, however, the function isn't called mean; it's called average. Now remember, I need to refer to the average of the raw data. So I have to tell it which sheet to reference by, again, putting the sheet name in single quotes followed by an exclamation mark. And then a comma. Oh, whoops, no, I got to tell it where, sorry, I have to tell it where it's looking. And where it's looking is in the row B, or the column B column, from entry number 2, cell number 2 to cell number 61. If I do that, it tells me that the average, the mean of the die rolls in this case was 3.38 through, looks like 383 repeating. I can do something similar for the standard deviation, the sample standard deviation. The function here is called stdev.s, and let me backspace this here just so you can see here. You see that the standard deviation function has two variants. So there's stdevp and stdevs. stdevp is the population standard deviation. stdevs is the sample standard deviation. The latter is the one that we want here. And what's going to go in here is the same thing that went into the bit for mean. So I have to tell it that I'm referencing, again, the other tab, raw data. So raw data goes in single straight quotes followed by an exclamation mark, and then the range of the cells in which the data can be found, which in my case was B2, again, through B61. If I do that, it tells me that the sample standard deviation was about 1.860304,938. If I made this column wider, it would give me more decimal places, but that's what our standard deviation looks like. So again, like I did with the table over here, I'm going to make this look a little bit more like a table by highlighting it and then formatting the cells such that there is a thick black outline and a thinner inside cells. And I'm also going to color the mean. Oops, I don't, that I can just do up here. Let's make the background blue and the text white for readability. And for the standard deviation, let's make the background yellow. Why not? And black text is perfectly readable there. Again, the colors I'm using here are just my own personal choices. Feel free to use whatever color you want. So the next thing, the last thing we need on this in this menu is the 5 number summary. So it looks like I'm gonna have to widen this a bit as well. Let's make it once. That's still not wide enough. Let's make it 200. Okay. So you may recall that the 5 number summary consists of the minimum, the the first quartile, the median or second quartile, the third quartile, and the maximum. So I'm going to do those in order. And again, there's no specific function in Excel that will spit out the 5 number summary by itself, but it does have functions that you can use to calculate the min, the max, the median, and the other 2 quartiles, which we'll see here in a moment. So the minimum is function for that is just called min. And again, I have to reference the other tab here. So that is tab raw data. And the data runs from B2 to B61. Unsurprisingly, the minimum, sorry, I need to be a little bit more careful here. So I'm going to do that again, but first thing I'm going to label what I'm getting here. So minimum. And there I will post the min equals min, etc. So the minimum, unsurprisingly, is 1. Next is the first quartile. So this the function for quartiles, first, second, third, or fourth, first, second, or third, excuse me, is quartile. It's just quartile. You see here it asks for array. When that just tells you that just means where do you want the data from. So again, it's in the raw data sheet from B2 to B61. And then the second thing you have to ask, it needs you to give is the quartile, is which quartile. So this is the first quartile, so that's number 1. So 1.75 is the first quartile of my data. So the median is next. Median and the second quartile are the same thing. The function for median, you can get it using quartile if you put the two for the quartile number, but you can also get it with just the median. And again, the set of numbers is as it was before, raw data, B2 through B61. So the median is 3.5, which is exactly what I would hope it would be. That's what it should be if you're rolling a 6-sided die. That's the average. Again, we're obviously the average was a little bit less than that when we actually did this, but you know your data might not look your data might not be exactly like this, but they should be reasonably similar. The third quartile is what is next in the 5 number summary. So quartile is the function I need, and again I have to reference the raw data tab in B2 through B61. Oh, and then I need to tell it that I want the third quartile. So in my case, the third quartile was 5. Lastly, we need the maximum, and the function for that is just called max. Again, I need to tell it that I'm referencing the raw data tab by putting raw data in single quotes followed by an exclamation mark, and then the data range B2 to B61. And so the maximum is 6. Once again, I'm going to try to highlight this and make it look a little, whoops, that was not what I meant to do. Sorry. Ooh, this doesn't want to go away. Yeah, sorry. There was a comment. I accidentally threw in a comment, I think. So I didn't mean to do that. So here we go. Let's try this again. Format the cells. So again, I'm going to use that thicker outline and thinner inside here. I'm also going to change colors here. I guess 5 number summary will be purple. That's basically the only thing I haven't used yet. And then, so minimum, oops, sorry, minimum, let's make the background, let's go back to red, I guess, with white text. Yellow here. Not yellow text, oops, sorry. Yellow background. Orange background. Blue background. Lighter blue background. And then green background. And let's make that text white for readability's sake. Now, again, color coding things like this, not absolutely necessary, but it does aid in the interpretation of the data. Okay, so that covers the second tab, frequency distribution tab. The next tab we're going to be making is the tab of graphical representations of the data. So I need to go back down here, get a new sheet. I'm going to rename it data visualizations or something like that, or graphical representations. Now, for this, we're going to need to make charts. And to insert charts, you actually have to use the insert bit here, and then charts. Sorry, you don't need the recommended one. So here is I'm going to need to edit this. Select data. Okay. So I need to reference the frequency distribution tab. And then I need to go back here real quick. What I want is all of that. So here we go. Let's just clear all this out and do this over again. So cancel. I'm going to go back here. Selecting data. I'm going to click on frequency distribution because that's what I'm making a bar graph here. So that's the data I want. And what are we doing? I see what it's doing. Okay, so let me re-edit. Let me reselect the data and clear everything. So I do want data from here. That's all I really want. There we go. That's better. Now, so that's a bar graph. That's our bar graph of the die rolls. So I need to add a few bits of information to this. First off, I need to title it. Die rolls, I guess, would be a decent title. Now I'm going to right click in here because not right clicking here. I need to add chart elements because I'm going to add titles to both the horizontal and vertical axes. So for the horizontal axis, I want number shown on die, and for the vertical axis, I want frequency. And that, I'm going to stretch this out a little bit so that it covers a little nicer region here. And there we go. There is our bar graph of the die rolls. Now, we aren't done here. Actually, let me stretch this a little bit more. We aren't done with this slide, though, because we're supposed to include a, excuse me, a box plot. And then we have the option of also including a pie chart. So I'm going to throw the pie chart in here. So to do that, I'm going to need to include a pie chart, which I will move up here next to this, stretch it down, and I'll need to select the data. So right click on this and find select data. And I can click on frequency distribution, and the data I want are the frequencies, like so. Now, I do need to change the title. Let die rolls. And I also want the legend on the right, personally. That's just me personally. You can put your legend wherever you want it. You can see it automatically color codes each of the roll values, and you can see that the legend here is it's good. I'd like it a little bit. I'm going to make it a bit bigger so that it's, oops, I guess maybe not like that. Make it a little bit bigger so it's a little bit easier to see. With a pie chart, there aren't any axes to label, so we don't have to worry about that. But you can see that. Why don't we change this color to, let's see if we can change this color specifically to red. Oh, no, let's undo that. No, it's specifically this one that I'd like to change. Vary colors by slice. Let's see if we can change that one to red. Yeah, there we go. That's a little bit easier. That way every single color is pretty clearly distinct. And this one, I'm going to make it a little bit of a brighter green, if you don't mind. And yeah, that should be fine. It's important when you're creating a graph like this to make sure that all of your colors are easily distinguishable if you're using colors to describe the excuse me, if you're using colors to describe the roles. You can kind of see from this, as you can see from the bar graph, that in my data, we got an inordinately large number of ones, which that's a thing that can happen. So there is one last thing that needs to go on this slide, and I'm going to actually have to scroll this down a bit to fit it on here. And that is a excuse me, a box plot. And for that, I think we have to go in here. To remember exactly where we can find the box plot. No. No. Ah, there it is. It's under histogram, box and whisker. That's the one I want. Now, for this, I'm going to need to select the data once more. So that's back in frequency distribution. Or no, actually. That's in raw data. And that is the raw, or the total number shown. The number shown on the dice. That's, oh, crud. Ah, okay, so I need to fix my my axes here. That's not what I want. Format. Reset to match style. No. Okay, so the axes do not want to, the axes do not want to play nice. So let me move this over here for a moment and stretch it a little bit. Okay, so in order to fix the axes, I need to double click on the vertical axis, just to double click on it, and it'll let me change the bounds. So the minimum should be 0, and the maximum should be 7. So go 1 click beyond what we're supposed to see here. And I need to change the type. Because it's not playing. That's not what it's supposed to do. Okay, so having run through some problems there, I figured out how to get this to do what I want, which is like so. I'm going to go back to the tab of raw data. I'm going to highlight the actual die rolls, and I'm going to go to insert, go here to histogram, and select box and whisker. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut this, because this is not the tab that it's supposed to be on. I'm going to go over here to the data visualizations tab, and I'm going to paste it. And I'm going to scroll down a little bit so I can mess with this a bit here. So first off, I'm going to stretch it like so. Need to rename it. The chart title, the chart title again should be, it doesn't want to cooperate with me for some reason. There we go. The chart title will be die rolls yet again. And in this case, well, we don't actually need the horizontal axis labeled here. But what I do want to do is include data labels on the, let's say, on the right. And one other thing I want to do is change the fill here to, well, just get rid of it so that it makes it a little bit easier to read. And the outline I'm going to change to black. So right there you can see the 5-number summary represented here as our box plot with one additional bit here. That X is for the mean. That is the actual average of the die rolls as we got. So that will complete. Now, if you want to keep this thing filled in, that's fine. If you want to change the color to something other than blue, which is the default, that's also fine. It's entirely up to you. Excuse me. So there, that gets us our our box plot here. So that brings us to one last thing that we need, one last tab, and that last tab is going to involve the summary, which for that I'm going to have to show you how to do that. So click New Sheet one more time. I'm going to rename this one Summary, or again something very similar. I'm going to go back to this Insert tab here, but what I'm going to insert is going to be a text box, which is here, text box. And now I can stretch it out. So I'm going to make it a fairly large text box in this case. And then I'm going to move this back up here. All right. Now, one other thing you're going to need to keep in mind about this is the formatting of the text. It's supposed to be in Times New Roman and 12-point font. And then you're going to need to write several paragraphs. So you're going to need to make your text box big enough to fit several paragraphs in which you will summarize the content of, or sorry, the procedures that you went through, and answer the questions that you are asked to answer in the format, namely, based off of this evidence, based off of your data, do you believe that the die you used was fair or do you not? And this is, just type in here. Obviously, I'm just typing gibberish. You're going to need to type like actual English words, but that's how that will work. I hope this was at least somewhat enlightening. If you do have questions about how to get Excel to do what you want it to do, feel free to email me at the address that you're going to see here on your screen here, dsimmons@wscc.edu. That is not gibberish, that is my email address. So if you do have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email and I'll try and help you through this, this assignment. So thank you very much for your time. Again, I hope this was at least informative, and have a good day.